Tired by my long speech, I closed my eyes and yawned. He answered after a moment's thought, "Nevertheless, your drivel contains an idea." "Two ideas," I answered. "Tell me one and I'll tell you the other." "All right, you start," said I, continuing to examine the ceiling and inwardly smiling. "You'd like to learn some details about some resort guest, and I have already an inkling as to the subject of your concern because there have already been inquiries about you in that quarter. Doctor, it is definitely impossible for us to converse. We read in each other's souls. Now, the other idea. Here is the other idea. I wanted to make you relate something or other. In the first place, because to listen is less fatiguing. In the second place, because a listener cannot give himself away. In the third place, because one can discover another's secret. And in the fourth place, because such intelligent people as you prefer an audience to a storyteller. Now, to business. What did the old Princess Ligovskoy say to you about me?" "You are quite sure that it was the old princess and not the young one?" "I'm absolutely sure." "Why?" "Because the young princess asked about Grushnitsky." "You have a great talent for putting two and two together. The young princess said she was sure that that young man in the soldier's coat had been degraded to the ranks for a duel." "I hope you left her under this pleasant delusion." "Naturally." "We have the beginning of a plot," I cried in delight. "The denouement of this comedy will be our concern. Fate is obviously taking care of my not being bored." "I have a presentiment," said the doctor, "that poor Grushnitsky is going to be your victim. Go on with your story, doctor." "The old princess said that your face was familiar to her. I observed to her that no doubt she had met you in Petersburg at some fashionable reception. I told her your name. The name was known to her. I believe her escapade caused a big sensation there. The old princess started to tell of your exploits, adding her own remarks to what was probably society gossip. Her daughter listened with curiosity. In her imagination, you became the hero of a novel in the latest fashion. I did not contradict the old lady, though I was aware she was talking nonsense. "My worthy friend," said I, extending my hand to him. The doctor shook it with feeling and continued. "If you wish, I'll introduce you." "Mercy," said I, raising my hands. "Does one introduce heroes? They never meet their beloved other than in the act of saving her from certain death." "And so you really intend to flirt with the young princess?" "On the contrary, quite on the contrary." "Doctor, at last I triumph. You do not understand me. This, however, saddens me, doctor." I went on after a moment of silence. "I never disclose my secrets myself, but I am awfully fond of having them divined, because that way I can always repudiate them if necessary. But come, you must describe to me the mama and the daughter. What sort of people are they?" "Well, in the first place, the mother is a woman of 45, answered Werner. "Her digestion is excellent, but there is something wrong with her blood. There are red blotches on her cheeks. She has spent the latter half of her life in Moscow, and there in retirement has grown fat. She likes risque anecdotes, and sometimes, when her daughter is not in the room, says improper things herself. She announced to me that her daughter was as innocent as a dove. What do I care?" I was on the point of replying that she need not worry. I would not tell anybody. The mother is being treated for rheumatism, and what the daughter's complaint is, goodness knows. I told them both to drink 2 glasses of oxysulfuric water daily and take a diluted bath twice a week. The old princess, it seems, is not used to command. She has great respect for the intelligence and the knowledge of her daughter, who has read Byron in English and knows algebra. It seems that in Moscow, young ladies have taken to higher education, and by Jove, it's a good thing. Our men, generally speaking, are so boorish that to coquette with them must be unbearable for any intelligent woman. The old princess is very fond of young men. The young princess looks at them with a certain contempt. A Moscow habit. In Moscow, all they enjoy is the company of 40-year-old wags. And the doctor, and you, doctor, have you been in Moscow?" "Yes, I had a fair amount of practice there." "Go on with your story." "Well, I seem to have told you everything. Oh yes, one more thing. The young princess seems fond of discussing sentiments, passions, and so forth. She spent one winter in Petersburg and did not like it, especially the society there. Probably she was given a cool reception." "You saw no one at their house today?" "On the contrary. There was one adjutant, one stiff-looking guardsman, and a lady who has recently arrived, a relative of the princess by marriage, a very pretty woman, but a very sick one, it seems. Did you chance to meet her at the well? She's of medium height, a blonde with regular features. Her complexion is consumptive, and she has a little black mole on her right cheek. Her face struck me by its expressiveness. A little mole, I muttered through my teeth. Really? The doctor looked at me and said solemnly, placing his hand on his heart, "She is someone you know." My heart indeed was beating faster than usual. "It is now your turn to triumph," I said, "but I rely on you. You will not betray me. I have not seen her yet, but I am sure that I recognize from your depiction a certain woman whom I loved in the old days. Don't tell her a word about me. Should she ask, give a bad account of me." "As you please," said Werner with a shrug. When he left, a dreadful sadness constrained my heart. Was it fate that was bringing us together again in the Caucasus? Or had she come here on purpose, knowing she would meet me? And how would we meet? And anyway, was it she? Presentiments never deceive me. There's no man in the world over whom the past gains such power as it does over me. Every reminder of a past sorrow or joy painfully strikes my soul and extracts from it the same old sounds. I am stupidly made. I forget nothing, nothing. After dinner, around 6, I went out onto the boulevard. There was a crowd there. The princess sat with her daughter on a bench, surrounded by young men who vied in paying attention to them. I sat down on another bench some way off, stopped 2 officers of the D Regiment whom I knew, and began telling them something. Apparently it was amusing because they began laughing like mad. Curiosity attracted to me some of those who surrounded the young princess. Little by little, they all abandoned her and joined my group. I never ceased talking. My stories were clever to the point of stupidity. My raillery, directed at the freaks who passed by, was wicked to the point of frenzy. I went on entertaining my audience till sunset. Several times the young princess and her mother passed by me arm in arm, accompanied by a little old man with a limp. Several times her glance, falling upon me, expressed vexation while striving to express indifference. What has he been telling you?" she inquired of one of the young men who had returned to her out of politeness. "Surely a very entertaining story, his exploits in battles?" She said this rather loudly and probably with the intention of pin-pricking me. "Aha!" I thought. "You are angry in earnest, my dear princess. Just wait, there is more to come." Grushnitsky watched her like a beast of prey and never took his eyes off her. I bet that tomorrow he will beg somebody to introduce him to her mother. She will be very pleased, because she is bored. May 16th. During the last 2 days, my affairs have advanced tremendously. The young princess definitely hates me. People have already reported to me 2 or 3 epigrams aimed at me, fairly caustic, but at the same time very flattering. She finds it awfully strange that I, who am used to high society and am on such intimate terms with her Petersburg female cousins and aunts, do not try to make her acquaintance. Every day, we run into each other at the well or on the boulevard. I do my best to lure away her admirers, brilliant adjutants, pallid Muscovites, and others. And almost always I succeed. I've always hated to entertain guests at my house. Now my place is full every day. People dine, sup, play cards, and alas, my champagne triumphs over the power of her magnetic young eyes. Yesterday, I saw her in Chelahov's store. She was bargaining for a wonderful Persian rug. The young princess kept begging her mama not to be stingy. That rug would be such an adornment for her dressing room. I offered 40 rubles more and outbid her. For this I was rewarded by a glance in which glittered the most exquisite rage. About dinner time, I purposely ordered my Circassian horse to be covered with that rug and led past her windows. Werner was with them at the time and told me that the effect of that scene was most dramatic. The young princess wants to preach a crusade against me. I have even noticed that already 2 adjutants in her presence greet me very dryly, although they dine at my house every day. Grushnitsky has assumed a mysterious air. He walks with his hands behind his back and does not seem to recognize anybody. His leg has suddenly got well. He hardly limps at all. He has found the occasion to enter into conversation with the old princess and to pay a compliment to her daughter. The latter is apparently none too choosy, for since then she has been acknowledging his salute with the prettiest of smiles. "You are sure you do not wish to make the acquaintance of the Ligovskoys," he said to me yesterday. "Quite sure." "Oh, come, theirs is the pleasantest house at the spa, all the best society here. My friend, I am dreadfully sick of the best society which is not here. And you, do you go there?" "Not yet. I have talked to the young princess a couple of times and more. It is kind of embarrassing to fish for an invitation, you know, though it is done here. It would have been another matter if I wore epaulettes." "Oh, come. You are much more intriguing this way. You simply don't know how to take advantage of your lucky situation. In the eyes of any sentimental young lady, your soldier's coat is bound to make a hero of you, a martyr." Grushnitsky smiled smugly. "What nonsense," he said. "I'm sure," I went on, that the young princess is already in love with you." He blushed to the ears and puffed out his chest. "Oh, vanity! You are the lever by means of which Archimedes wished to lift the earth." "You always joke," he said, feigning to be cross. "In the first place, she knows me so little as yet. Women love only those whom they do not know. But I have no pretension whatever to make her fond of me. I simply want to gain access to a pleasant house. And it would have been quite absurd if I had any hopes. Now you people, for example, are another matter. You St. Petersburg lady killers. You have only to look and women melt. By the way, Pechorin, do you know what the young princess said about you?" "Really, has she already started to speak to you about me?" "Wait, there's nothing to be glad about." "The other day I entered into conversation with her at the well by chance. Her third word was, 'Who is that gentleman with that unpleasant, oppressive gaze? He was with you when—'" She blushed and did not want to name the day, remembering her charming gesture. "You don't have to mention the day," I replied to her. "It will always remain in my memory." "Pechorin, my friend, I do not congratulate you. You are on her blacklist, and this, indeed, is regrettable because my Mary is a very charming girl." It should be noted that Grushnitsky is one of those people who, when speaking of a woman whom they hardly know, call her my Mary, my Sophie, if she had the fortune to catch their fancy. I assumed a serious air and replied to him, "Yes, she is not bad. But beware, Grushnitsky, Russian young ladies, for the most part, nourish themselves on platonic love, without admixing to it any thought of marriage. Now, platonic love is the most troublesome kind. The young princess seems to be one of those women who want to be amused. If she is bored in your presence for 2 minutes together, you are irretrievably lost. Your silence must excite her curiosity. Your talk should never entirely satisfy it. You must disturb her every minute. She will disregard convention publicly a dozen times for your sake, and will call it a sacrifice. And in order to reward herself for it, she will begin to torment you. And after that, she will simply say that she cannot stand you. Unless you gain some ascendancy over her, even her first kiss will not entitle you to a second. She will have her fill of flirting with you, and in 2 years or so, she will marry a monster out of submissiveness to her mother, and will start persuading herself that she is miserable, that she loved only one man, meaning you, but that heaven had not wished to unite her with him because he wore a soldier's coat. Although under that thick gray coat there beat a passionate and noble heart. Grushnitsky hit the table with his fist and started to pace up and down the room. I inwardly roared with laughter and even smiled once or twice, but fortunately he did not notice. It is clear that he is in love, for he has become even more credulous than before. There even appeared on his finger a Neolode silver ring of local production. It looked suspicious to me. I began to examine it, and what would you think? The name Mary was engraved in minuscule letters on the inside, and next to it was the day of the month when she picked up the famous glass. I concealed my discovery. I did not wish to force a confession from him. I want him to choose for me. I want him to choose me for a confidant himself, and it is then that I shall enjoy myself. I'm going to reread that because I can't believe this guy already got an engraved ring. How weird. It is clear that he is in love, for he has become even more credulous than before. There even appeared on his finger a Neolode silver ring of local production. It looked suspicious to me. I began to examine it, and what would you think? The name Mary was engraved in minuscule letters on the inside. And next to it was the day of the month when she picked up the famous glass. I concealed my discovery. I did not wish to force a confession from him. I want him to choose me for a confidant himself, and it is then that I shall enjoy myself.